Hey, it's Dr. Shante. I know I've been missing in action for a while, but this video is all about where I've been, where I'm going, and what I've got in store for this year. Keep watching. So as a YouTuber or a content creator, one of the worst things you can do is go missing without any sort of explanation to your audience. And so for that, I deeply apologize. But when I tell you life took an unexpected turn, it really, really did. And so for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being patient with me. And for those of you who are new to this channel, welcome. I hope that you all will hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you like this video and you can turn on those post notifications so that you're notified every time I post new content. And trust me, you're going to want to do that because I have a lot coming your way. So where have I been? What's been going on? So when I launched this channel, I had all of these high hopes. I had all of these great ideas and I had all of this content that was laid out. And then when I say life took an unexpected turn, it really did. So something that I haven't shared is that my mother has been on the donor list for new lungs for almost 2 years. And so back in May of last year, we finally got the phone call that her lungs had come in. And so it was kind of like an answer to a prayer. It was what we have all been waiting for. But what a lot of people don't understand about organ donation is that you are trading one thing for another. And so in exchange for the new lungs that she got, what she traded was her immune system, which means that for the rest of her life, she's going to be what's considered immunocompromised, meaning she doesn't have an immune system because her body will never accept the new lungs as native to her. And so in order for her to keep those lungs, she has to be on immunosuppressants for the rest of her life. And the surgery went off without a hitch. It was great. There were very few complications. Unfortunately, afterwards, her immune system created some complications in her body that literally brought her to like the brink of death. So she had the surgery in May, and then in July, she was literally, without exaggeration, knocking on death's doorstep. And for the next 3 months, my mother was fighting her way back to a healthy existence. To put this in perspective, the doctor said that she had a 15% chance of surviving because without an immune system to try to fight off all of the complications post-surgery, things were looking very, very grim. And it was kind of, for our family, it was all hands on deck. It wasn't the time to be talking about my latest travel adventures or the newest and latest content on the podcast. It just was one of those things where family had to take precedence. And so while I'm sorry that I had to leave the channel without explanation, I can't be sorry for showing up for my family and being where I was supposed to be, because that is absolutely where I was supposed to be. Having said that, though, my mother's illness and the possibility of her being that close to death, it triggered so much for me in terms of things between her and I that just had not been resolved from my childhood. So even though a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, Dr. Shante, you're so great. And Dr. Shante, you've got your thing together. And Dr. Shante, I just love you. And people assume that when you show up in a space like this, that your life has been this perfect crystal stair. And mine has not been a perfect crystal stair. My life, my childhood was very tumultuous. And a lot of those issues just have not been resolved. And sometimes that's what happens, right? Things happen in childhood and people just never talk about them. We just kind of move on like it didn't happen, or we just carry it and bury it and we don't want to make a big stink about it. But realizing that my mother was that close to death and so many issues that had not been resolved, it sent me running to my therapist. And lo and behold, I got a diagnosis of PTSD. So things that had happened in my childhood that were traumatic, that were not resolved. And so I have been in therapy and in recovery for those issues ever since. And I'm in a much healthier place. My mom is in a much healthier place. Like, she's like a walking miracle at this point. I mean, she's driving around, she's cleaning up the house, she's retired from work, and all she has had is just the time and the energy to focus on her own recovery. So it's kind of been this parallel journey of her on her physical health recovery and me on my journey of mental health recovery. So that's what happened. And I'm very grateful that you guys hung in with me and waited because I know it's been months and months and months since I've been on the air. So now that you know where I've been, let me tell you what's going to be happening this year. So here's what I know to be true. You can go to church every single Sunday. You can give faithfully to the ministries. You can serve in ministries. You can do your daily devotion. You can pray consistently and still be absolutely miserable. And just now in faith communities, we're starting to have those conversations about what it means to be a faithful believer, but still have mental health needs that are beyond the scope of the church, which is why I'm super excited to announce my second podcast. Yes, another podcast is coming this year called Whole and Complete. And Whole and Complete is all about faith and wellness, loving God, living well, spiritually, mentally, and physically. It's about having those conversations that are beyond the scope of what happens in a traditional church or in a traditional faith community, and talking about how we overcome some of the things that have plagued us. So I want you guys to mark your calendars for February 18th, because that is when Whole and Complete will launch. And after every podcast, Whole and Complete is a series-based podcast. And so after every series, I'm going to be coming back here on the channel with a podcast recap. So I'm not going to rehash the entire podcast, but I'm definitely going to hit the highlights and encourage you to go back and listen to that series so that you have the tools, the resources, and the faith that you need to live a whole and complete life. So I cannot wait to share that project with you, and I look forward to seeing you over there. So that's where we're headed, and I'm really excited about it. So if you are as excited as I am, please drop a comment down below. And if you've had your own mental health struggles, or if you've had some of those issues in the church where you've really been struggling and people say something like, well, you need to just pray about it, and left it right there, share those experiences, because I would love to respond and communicate back to you, because that's exactly the kind of thing that we're going to be talking about on the podcast. So I'll be posting links to my social media. So if you want to connect on that space, you're absolutely welcome to do that. You can find me at Dr. Shante Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And I'll also be posting a link to my website, readytobelieve.com, where you can find additional resources. And I'll see you next time.